Hi guys, Johnny Good here for Real Home Studio today, taking a look at Brainworx Bx-Stereomaker from Plugin Alliance. Just before we dive straight in, I want to remind you to please like and subscribe, and if you've got something to say, then please do drop it in the comments box below. In a nutshell, Stereomaker's going to take your mono recording and stereoize it to the breadth of your choosing. It's also got a number of controls on it as well, which stops that processing sounding brittle, and you can dial in sort of warmth and natural tones to the processing. The other big thing about this plugin as well is it is 100% mono compatible. So when your recording or your mix down is getting played back on a mono source, Bx-Stereomaker will not let you down. So let's just dive in and play around with some of these controls on the plugin itself. We've got a tone control, which is kind of self-explanatory. You can just play around with the tone once you've done the processing to achieve the sound which you're after. You've got a high damp control, which is kind of like a natural dial-in. It's kind of dialing in some warmth, which can sort of counter maybe some of the brittleness which comes in sometimes when stereoizing through the processing. You've got a mono frequency dial here, which basically leaves alone everything below the frequency you've set it at. So say if I set it at 80 Hz here, then everything below 80 Hz is going to remain unstereoized and as it is originally in mono. And then we've got the stereo expansion knob, which is kind of where the fun starts to really happen, where we can dial in some of that stereoizing sound, which goes all the way up to an amazing 300% for maximum width. And then you've got this dual control knob for tilt and pan. Pan rather self-explanatory, and tilt's kind of handy to affect the balance. So as you're going through processing, you might find the left or the right become somewhat favoured. You can use that tilt control just to counter that and bring it back to the centre. Okay, so I'm going to be using Stereomaker on this guitar track here. Let's just take a quick listen. Okay, and what I want to do is essentially stereoize it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive straight into a preset on here, and I'm going to go for rock guitar extra wide. Well, let's just take a listen. So we're definitely stereoized. Now you've got 2 meters down here. We've got this balance meter, which I mentioned a moment ago. And we've also got this correlation. So the correlation is really handy. If you see it going into the red, then you're just pushing that stereoizer a bit too hard, and you're going to start getting kind of out of phase issues. So you can use that just to monitor it. And I'm just going to dial it back a tiny bit. And I'm also noticing that the balance is going a little bit to the left. So I'm just going to use tilt just to pull it a little bit more to the right. Let's have a listen. Cool, and let's just have a listen for fun in the mix, and I'm just going to bypass and bring it back in again. It's really very cool. It's a great, very handy plugin, often more handy than you'd think it would be if you've never used one before. Particularly handy if you get sent in projects, I find, and there might be one acoustic guitar and a singer, and I want to get some stereo width in that acoustic guitar. They can be really handy, when you haven't got a second track recorded. Just to prove a point also about the mono compatibility, I've got a session of Ozone here, and there's nothing going through it. Let's just turn that EQ off. Nothing going through it, so I'm just going to monoize, so you can take a listen to now this stereoizer remaining intact. So here's the track again in stereo, and I'm going to just flip it down into mono, and you'll hear that amazingly the mono just collapses down but sounds absolutely pristine. Very cool. It's a really, really nice plugin. Worth mentioning as well, if you keep your eye out, sometimes Plugin Alliance knock this one out pretty cheap for around like $19 and stuff. It is well worth grabbing for that. It's a really handy little plugin and it's solid as a rock. My name's Johnny Good for Real Home Studio. I do hope you found that review of Bx-Stereomaker useful today. If you did, please remember to like, subscribe. Most importantly, have yourself a great day.